Okay, here I have some bit of old, like, professional radio equipment. It's got JNS limiters written on the back of it. Got a power supply in there with a nice toroidal transformer by the look of it. Double power supply modules in the front here. PS8024s. And a couple of things which have got compression in dB on these LED panel meters on the front. SL8602s. A couple of what I think are just headphone amplifiers by the look of it. Balance, volume, headphone. And the last one has a couple of local radio stations, 7ZL, 7ZR, Commonwealth asset sticker on the end here. So I think this has come out of the local transmitter tower. It came with a AM stereo monitor receiver. And this is like $15. I thought I just might grab it. And it was only $25 for the other receiver, just to see what the hell's actually in it. A couple of LM317, LM337T. I don't know there's really much of value in it, but stereo limiter, that might be to stop the AM stereo transmitter causing what they call splatter, which is sort of going outside its bandwidth or whatever. It's got some interesting little LEDs there. Looks like a very professionally made unit. NEX 1070, issue 2, stereo limiter. Got an operate and a proof switch. Got one of these XR chips. That's probably some sort of compressor or something. A couple more of them here, or 4 more of them. XR, I think it's XR 5533. So 5533. That's another 5533. Not surprisingly, well, LM339, which I think is a quarter op amp or something. And not surprisingly, a LM3914 running the panel meter. So that would probably make a nice little LED level meter or something. It's got gain and output. Looks like 10-turn trim pots. Another couple of 10-turn pots. And here the 2 little voltage regs. A couple of nice fancy looking, well, they're reefers though, reefer capacitors. They look like nice capacitors, but yeah, when you see reefer on them, that's not so good. And I think this other card's exactly the same. JNS Electronic Industries, made in Australia. Wow, I was expecting this to be American looking at it. And given it's got all those sort of American type chips, obviously National Semiconductors and XR, whoever they were, I can't even remember now. That's just a bit of interesting old equipment. And I guess we'll see if we pull one of these amp module things out. Oh yeah, look at that. 2 TDA 1520s. So they're quite powerful. I think they were like used in Philips televisions and stuff. Again, the LM317 and 337 regulators, another XR5533 trim pots. There you go. It even says monitor amplifier. I already worked out probably what MA8711, NEX 1083, issue 3. Nice little LED panel mount there. O&M spares. MA8711 serial number 1. So whether that was the first one ever made, who knows? I didn't look at the serials on the other ones. Did they have serial numbers? 3 and 1. Whether they just made up serial numbers as they went, but yeah, that's early on, and that's serial number 2. It's basically the same thing. A fairly professional looking gold-plated headphone socket, right, left and ground going into that, and switch. So I wonder if they had a speaker output maybe. Terminate left and right, although they're not fitted. Relay of some sort. If they've got a switch, why would you want a switch other than, I don't know, it's got quite the connector on the back. Those, I think a lot of main sort of PABXs and stuff use these sort of big telephone systems that use that type of connector. And this one doesn't even have a plug to plug into, so this must have been in a, so we've only got 1, 2, 3 back planes actually installed, and I've just pulled 4 cards out of this thing, so that's interesting. And what was this one? It just shows left gain, right gain, power left and right. But for some reason they've got two different radio stations. Two of the local ABCs listed there. Well, this is at least serial 459. SDA 8005. That's all it says. And there's a whole bunch of those chips again, the 5533s. A mountain of them. And then a UA 747. What was a UA 747? Sounds familiar, but I can't remember. Was that another voltage regulator or something? Don't know. Maybe that's another op amp or something. Same two regulators, so these probably run on plus or minus 15 volts or something. It just says LN, LPOT, RPOT, RN. So it must be these links, is it? So it probably is related to the AM stereo stuff. And I assume this backplane, oh yeah, we've actually got some fancy writing on here, I didn't even notice that. Oh, so we've got stereo limiter, and doesn't say anything on the other one. So that's how you connect into it. JNS Electronic Industries, Melbourne, Australia. Even got a phone number and telex, because this likely came out in the early 80s or something. When AM stereo came out, looks like, oh, that one power supply runs off everything. That's got something on it too. That's serial number 210. Looks like the little front bits pull off that. Oops, we've got a, yeah, the module pulls out of it. Old school, I forget what those connectors are called, but they were more something you saw earlier on. A couple of fuses, got one of these switches that you have to pull it out to, so you can't accidentally move it. Got a positive and negative rail, which I guess goes into all them LN317s. We could probably find out what voltage comes out of this thing. I assume this other module pulls off the front as well. Good idea making a little removable module with fuses so you can easily remove them. Why they put the filter caps in here, I don't know, but why not, I guess. And I think that's just two connectors off the one. Actually, there's two toroidals in there. Whew. Yeah, well, there would be, I guess, if it's got two rails. I guess I could plug this in and see, does it say anywhere what comes out of it? I think they tell you, but no. It's actually got slow blow fuses on the back as well. Oh, 8 plus 18 volts. Yeah, so that probably might give away very gain. So maybe it's 18 volt rails coming in and then they drop them down to plus or minus 15 or something. So it might be a good little power supply for running preamps or something, but probably a bit overkill really. But yeah, just an interesting bit of old equipment. And I'll get the tuner that goes with it, or the monitor receiver, which is, you know, probably the world's most expensive and over the top, over-engineered AM radio. So it looks like a couple of these are spares or something. But I assume the limiters are, yeah, the anti-splatter things or something like that. Because I think if you over-modulated with your audio signal or something was the cause of that. I never really got into radio stuff much, so I'm not really up with all the amateur radio and other radio stuff. But I did do a little bit of work for a company where we did some two-way radio stuff. And I sort of learned the basics. But yeah, I don't know when this was decommissioned. I thought we still had AM radio stations that did AM stereo, but it doesn't look like they do anymore. They've all gone to mono, except for maybe one in the north of the state. That's a bit of a shame. I mean, you think if they had all the infrastructure in place, they would have kept transmitting it. Because I've got a couple of Sony tuners here that pick up AM stereo. I was hoping to get them going and have a listen again, just to remind me how it was kind of underwhelming, but it was better than just normal AM, that's for sure. Certainly wasn't FM quality because of the noise and stuff, but it was a good improvement. And I did at one stage have a boombox that could actually pick it up. The only AM stereo boombox I've ever seen, a Sony one. I ended up chucking it out in the end, unfortunately, but anyway, we'll have a look at this tuner or monitor receiver thing and see what that's like.